born into a life of abuse, both physical and substance. He was probably the third to last child of 7 or 9. No one even counted. In a family that didn't fit the definition of the nuclear guidelines set at the time. For the House and the Senate didn't care about what was happening in the middle of nowhere. They were too busy hiding their lives from the press, and too concerned with finding scapegoats, and too concerned with the hammer and a sickle and the power that happens when it's combined. Raised with a fist, a strap of leather, wood, and ethanol, there was to be no great struggle to overcome, no grand tale. Simply be part of it. Never once was he able to speak the truth. He never understood that word, yet expected out of all others. By a chance encounter, a passing, somewhere, amongst a myriad of mistakes, somewhere in there was one that was made. But no one will confess to it. A day, a year, they go by, all the same. Does time even matter when his neurons are drowning already? A mistake exists. No one willing to accept the repercussions. So the hallways are empty. Simply resentment made flesh. Believing a lie because he saw no other option. He was a repeat offender. Past, present, into his future. By the time it was again. In this instance, both parties are guilty. The rehabilitation system that has been instilled has failed all that have gone through it. He was no exception. So why would that change? A part of the machine of the man. But a forced pardon. For the crimes committed are undeniable. It is so much easier to accept that they have been committed. Trading in one prison cell for another one. Abrahamic repression and stone walls exchanged for floors covered in cockroaches. He'd already gone through a vocational program. It was no longer acceptable to one set on the modern standards in our current era, led by an aging actor, generating a forced recession. Though he was very skilled in his craft, top of his class in his vocational, promising future. very skilled. It was simply an old curriculum, out of date. A trade no longer needed. He was forced to play a part that he should have never had been. But he did so for nearly a decade, spending his nights residing in bars, cells, cars, and makeshift hell. Only knows how to drown his thoughts and emotions with misplaced anger. Simply the same cycle of fists, a strap of leather, wood, and ethanol. Eventually, the degenerates and vagabonds that were his company began to see their own demise, leading him to abandon ship for a while. Once he returned, he found a new captain in his stead. No morality holding him to his previous obligations. There was no leg to stand on. Thus, the next decade was dedicated to disappear. Packed up. To live like rats in the former dwellings of a dead man. He gave in to the weapon of the ghettos. The government institutionalized destruction handed out on streets in the decade of excess, and was adrift. A boat at sea would occasionally spot his vessel, but it'd be lost in the fog too soon. Not like he was at the helm to even notice. Now, stuck in a dead man's house, with all dead men around him, it was time to leave. Find a new place to sleep. A Swedish engineered home. The box was sent, but the parts were all recycled pieces of scrap, missing essential components. Full assembly was required. This wasteland reject, this six-sided tube, was now home. Clear from the fog for a second, realizing a lifetime had been gone. But that was only long enough to catch his breath. An echo from the past returns. Instead of realization. They're the only comforts that he could remember. They don't write obituaries for men that are found at the bottom